Which one of these photos do you prefer? One was taken using manual mode and the other on auto. Stick around and see which one was which. From a very early point in my photography journey, I was told by someone to never stop experimenting, because if you do, you'll only get caught in a comfort zone, which will mask you from opportunities to further your knowledge and to keep your photography fresh. For my latest experiment, I decided to see how good the automatic mode was on my camera. Since I got it, it hadn't even been uprooted from full manual mode. In fact, I was quite surprised that the dial actually moved. I had some errands to run in Leeds city centre, so I decided to take my camera along with me and take a series of comparison photographs in both auto and manual to find out which ones I liked best and why. To be as accurate as possible, I made exactly the same edits to each of the photographs in post afterwards. So let's have a look and see if you agree with me. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments section below. I knew I was going to be taking my life into my hands, venturing into the festive frenzy that is Leeds on the penultimate Friday before Christmas. After running my errands, I soon found myself in the corn exchange, where I snapped my first comparison of the day. The shot on the left was taken in manual mode, the one on the right in auto. I know which I prefer. I can't say I'm surprised, to be honest. The manual shot just has far more life to it. The auto shot is underexposed in comparison. After the corn exchange, I popped across the road into Leeds' famous Kirgit market, where I hovered around like a weirdo for a while, waiting for people to get out of my shot. I'm sorry, I'll never be a street photographer. With this shot, there isn't much of a difference, but I have to admit I like the warmth of the manual shot. And it's got a little bit more detail in the stall in the background, because I used a slightly narrower aperture than my camera did in the automatic shot. After my visit to the market, I decided to go upmarket, nipping into the Victoria shopping centre and its magnificent wood-panelled staircase. After the comparison of the photo taken in the corn exchange, I was quite surprised that this one has gone completely the opposite way. The auto shot is just far too overexposed for my liking. The skylight is completely blown out in places and it lacks the contrast of the manual shot. Once I'd descended the staircase, I found a pink vending machine, another photo comparison opportunity not to be missed. Again, we've reverted back to the auto shot being underexposed. I'm not very scientific, and maybe someone who knows the technicalities of how auto modes work can enlighten me in the comments, but maybe it's something to do with the intensity of the light and how the camera's sensor is reacting to it. As I looked up from the vending machine, I saw one last shot of the staircase slap me round the face like a wet fish. Again, the auto shot is underexposed in comparison to the manual one, which, because of its brighter nature, has much more of a visual draw into the abstraction that lies beyond. Inside the main thoroughfare of the shopping centre, I went in search of the famous spherical skylight. Already over-photographed, I decided to add two more to its burgeoning fame. To be honest, I'm not sure if there's enough of a difference here for me to make a decision either way. Maybe my autophobia is starting to wane. Back out on the mean streets of the city, I found an interesting composition of a Ferris wheel in the town hall tower, with a few aesthetically pleasing streetlights to top it off. With this one, I like the depth that the manual shot has. I think it has more punch in the contrast. The autophoto just looks a bit muddy in comparison. I soon found myself getting swept up by the sickly smells and bright lights of Millennium Square's Christmas market. It must have had an adverse effect on me because I actually prefer the auto version of this picture. I'm not quite sure why the manual one has a magenta cast to it. Maybe it's the slightly slower shutter speed and the abundance of browns and reds in the picture. Again, techies, please comment below if you can enlighten me. Maybe it was the atmosphere getting to me, or maybe my camera had got over the shock of being placed into the auto mode. I went in search of a way of getting back on an even keel, so I decided to try some panning. Ah, that's better. Another auto mode fail. Okay, so there's some blurring of the surrounding cars, but come on, there's no comparison to the manually exposed effect. My time in Leeds was coming to an end. But before I left, I headed down to the canal in search of some darkness to get over those bright lights and sickly sweet smells of the Christmas market to test how good my auto mode was in low light. With my first effort, I think the auto shot lacks a bit of dynamic range. I like contrast, don't get me wrong, but I like the fact that you can make out some of the context and detail in the stonework underneath the arch in the manual shot. In this comparison, either shot could work. It all comes down to the intent, and my intent was to slow down the movement of the water to produce a stylized effect, to draw your eye more towards the stonework in the background than the splashing of the water. Obviously, manual comes out on top again. I'm glad I was finally getting over that earlier lapse. For my final shot of the day, I found some graffiti in a tunnel reflected in the canal below. I'm actually quite surprised how well the auto mode did here. There's a lot of light, contrast and punch. In reality, this tunnel was very dark indeed. However, the ISO has been pushed very high. In the manual shot, I pushed my shutter speed a bit further to lessen the amount of noise, and I think it's worked. I was finally beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so it was time to head home and come to some conclusions. Okay, so I've never been a big fan of automatic photography, which I suppose has become abundantly clear watching this video. I suppose auto's okay if you're just pointing and shooting and getting those record shots, but if you really want to take your photography further, you need to know how your camera works and how to achieve the look you want to achieve. For those of you watching this that might be new to photography, I know that the manual mode may seem scary to start off with, and you may have taken some photographs in it and thought, oh, these are terrible compared to the photographs that I've taken in auto. But hopefully by watching this, you've realised that if you really knuckle down and get to know how your camera works, then the world of photography can be your oyster. I'm also aware that many of you will be shouting at your screen saying, but Tom, what about the aperture and shutter priority modes, where you can set one setting and the camera does the rest? On the one hand, I think these settings can be quite useful in certain situations, like if you're trying to get a shot quickly and your hands won't manually set everything quite quickly enough, or when you're trying to work out and learn what each of the individual settings do. But at the same time, on the other hand, I don't think that we should be using these settings to compromise on our intent or mask our lack of knowledge. Only you know what you want your photograph to look like, and any decision you hand to the camera is going to be a compromise. Will I be changing my camera from manual to auto again anytime soon? No. Should you embrace full manual photography? Absolutely. Even if you're scared of it, feel the fear and do it anyway. You definitely won't regret it. Now, if you'd like to see another one of my not so technical experiments, then watch this video next. And if you've enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe to see what unusual antics I'll be getting up to in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.